We'll talk about TCU winning 44-11 on Saturday, but we just have to apologize first, guys, because we were all completely wrong about our assessment of TCU football this week.
Yeah, let's just say mistakes were made. I almost want to pull up, like, you guys know that Shaq quote where he's like, "I apologize, I was unfamiliar with your game."
Yeah.
That's me right now. I don't know how you guys are feeling, but
we fumbled it away, guys.
We did.
We fumbled it away. I decided to play the good old music from our familiar song here because a blunder was made. Severe blunders were made. We all picked the Brigham Young University Cougars.
Yeah.
To beat the Texas Christian University Horned Frogs.
But thank gosh we were proved wrong.
We were wrong. We were very wrong.
Big time.
Yeah, so I think part of the reason that we picked BYU to win this game is because we were kind of unsure of what we were going to get from Josh Hoover in his first career start. But boy, did he live up to the I mean, I don't know how much expectations there were, but he definitely surpassed them. That is for sure. He had a monster game. It was the most yards from a TCU quarterback in his first career start since 2011. He went 37 of 58, 439 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And what does that say about Sonny Dykes and Kendall Briles, their confidence in him to say, hey, first career start, yeah, you're going to throw the ball 58 times. And I know that was based off of scheme. They loaded the box a lot, but that's a lot for your first career start.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I think what was kind of the overarching kind of message from Sonny Dykes and the whole team was that, look, while Josh Hoover was QB2 entering this season up until this point, he has been one of the most prepared players. They've said in previous press conferences over and over again that Josh Hoover's always watching film. He's always prepping with the wide receivers, the running backs, the offensive line. And so as much as, for fans like us and other TCU fans don't see that, things are still going on behind the scenes that, I mean, Josh Hoover kind of went into that spot and it didn't feel like there was much of a shift. In fact, it felt like he's been there for this entire season and just popped off. And I mean, all credit to Josh Hoover and Sonny Dykes and Kendall Briles. I mean, to get him ready for this week against BYU and credit, I mean, it was against BYU, so not the toughest opponent, but still, you still had to go out there. TCU put up 44 points, which is huge. And I mean, Hoover just looked really comfortable in the pocket, something that we haven't really seen much of from Chandler Morris. I was kind of happy to see that he was just calm and pretty steady for most of the game.
The Hoover Dam has been called the greatest dam in the world by some, including the National Park Service. The reservoir it holds is the largest in the United States. Josh Hoover just gave the greatest quarterback performance of this season for TCU.
Yep.
So it's safe to say that him and the Hoover Dam have a lot of things in common right now. It was great. He's the first quarterback since Casey Bacall to throw 4 touchdowns in his first start. That happened in 2011 for Bacall against Baylor. So we're kind of seeing a trend of these quarterbacks for TCU. They get thrown into the fire their first time, and they perform really, really well. Chandler Morris against Baylor 2 years ago had a Herculean effort against Baylor to upset those guys, and then you throw in Hoover this past weekend, and he gives you a performance that can rival that one. I mean, it was just a really great performance, really awesome to see, and it really kind of rejuvenates the spirits, I think, for a lot of fans and the team going forward and what the prospects of the season hold.
Yeah, because we'll talk about that in the next segment, but if you were going to make a bowl game, if TCU was going to do that, it had to start this week against BYU. So certainly I think the spirits were lifted at the Carter after that win. I felt pretty happy about it. I mean, you really couldn't have asked for much better performance. But yeah, Josh Hoover, his footwork was really impressive. There was a play where there was a lot of traffic, players on the ground. He moved up in the pocket. His footwork was incredible, and he found his receiver down the field. It was a tremendous job for a guy like this making his first career start. So overall, pretty pleased with that. And then a big thing, too, is the defense. It feels like they continue to get better and better. Now, last week against Iowa State, I mean, it was more so they're on the field for a long time, but what we saw on Saturday was very impressive, starting off with a pick six from Miller Bradford.
Yeah, and I mean, that was kind of the tone setter. And I mean, getting that interception in that moment of the game with, how everyone was feeling, I mean, that was the tone setter for the rest of the game. I mean, BYU came out a little flat to start. And I mean, TCU's defense, I mean, we got a lot of pressure from our D-line. I thought the linebackers did a good job of kind of just spying and making sure that the quarterback wouldn't get out of the pocket and getting to the running backs quickly when they were found in the flat. Then also, I mean, coverage was pretty good all around. And I mean, that's one thing that TCU has really struggled with. It was earlier this season coming from behind. And with the defense coming out like that, getting that pick six early, it makes it so much easier for your quarterback, especially someone like Josh Hoover who was making his first career start. Just getting that little cushion early made it that much easier.
I think it's safe to say that this was the first time that TCU played a full, complete game from start to finish, right? You started off with the pick six, and then, it never was in reach for BYU. TCU just dominated the game completely, and that's the kind of performance that you need, especially coming off two very heartbreaking losses to teams that you think that you should be able to beat. And you said it, and we'll talk about it a little bit later and more in depth, but if you didn't win on Saturday, the bowl chances get increasingly more difficult. So this was where it needed to start. And it's just a really great way to celebrate homecoming, for instance, right? I know that's not as, pomp and circumstance as it used to be.
Yeah.
Where's the parade, guys? Can we get a parade?
I know. I think that would be awesome to have like a little pregame parade for homecoming week, and things like that right outside the Carter and the Commons and stuff. I mean, that would be pretty sweet.
We got 2 streets we can do it on.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
We should do that. Was there any homecoming king and queen kind of things, or what was that going on? I wasn't able to see the game that part of the game.
I mean, homecoming king had to be Josh Hoover.
Oh yes, of course.
It had to be.
They should give the homecoming king to the winning quarterback every single year.
Yeah.
It would be funny if it was like, and Keaton Slovis, you have won the TCU homecoming king.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, he helped us plenty in winning that game for sure.
One thing I do want to point out about TCU's performance this weekend, and I know you guys know this, but Jalen Robinson being back was huge. He missed 2 games due to injury, came back. I wasn't sure how much he would be involved in the offense, to be completely honest, but he's our deep shot guy that can really stretch the field. And I felt like that was one of the biggest problems with Chandler Morrison when Jalen Robinson wasn't on the field, was that Chandler never really looked down the field, and he didn't really have that touch. But when Robinson came back into the team this past weekend against BYU, it really opened things up. I mean, when he goes deep, you get some underlying space underneath for other guys to show up. And I mean, I know it sounds simple, but having that guy that can stretch the field like that helped so much. And with Hoover, I mean, again, comfortable in the pocket. The O-line, I thought, played its best game of the season, I want to say.
Yeah.
It was either this game or the one against SMU. Mm-hmm. That I'd say that the O-line played its best. And I know recently the O-line's had some trouble. They've had some moving parts, some guys, switching positions, especially at that at the Iowa State game. But I mean, just what a way to bounce back. Really proud of the team. Now, just got to hope that this continues and everyone gets a good week of practice this week, because there's a big game coming up this weekend.
Yeah, it is a massive game. And to your point, 13 receivers caught a pass from Josh Hoover. I think we've seen similar to that throughout the season. It just kind of shows the depth at receiving core. J.P. Richardson had a nice game, 6 catches, 104 yards, and a touchdown. I remember when he scored when he bounced off that tackle, I was like, how? What? Like, how did he just score there? Like, I definitely thought he would just come down get tackled pretty easily. And then it was also a big game from Savion Williams, who we've talked about him a few times. I think Savion, there were a bit of high expectations when you have to fill the void that Quentin Johnston and Darius Davis and even Tay Barber left behind. And now Savion Williams, he showed flashes last year, and so he's now the guy. And there's times where he's just been a little bit absent, but he had a really nice game on Saturday, and I hope to see that a little bit more moving forward.
Yeah, and to your point, right, I mean, finding 13 different receivers, I mean, it tells you that, look, this team is confident in Josh Hoover, right? I mean, to allow Josh Hoover to throw the ball, what was it, 58 times? Yeah, again, right, because BYU was really, up in the box there. It allowed us to pass more. But trusting your quarterback and then having him find 13 different receivers tells you that there is this trust, there is this chemistry between him and his receiving core, which is something that, yes, has been there all year, but you expect to see a significant drop-off when you go to QB2. But, I mean, again, I think the whole point of Josh Hoover's, memo is preparation. One thing that we've heard, Zion and myself, is that this guy prepares. He watches film with everybody. He's always going to be in the film room soaking up any information he can. And I mean, if this is a sign of things to come, it's really positive. And just like you said, I mean, J.P. Richardson, I think he eclipsed the century mark for the first time this season. This game, he had 104 yards. Then Savion, seeing him go for 77 and a touchdown was great, because I mean, he's been quiet, but to get him going right now, this is the time that we would need some of these guys to kind of catch a hot streak,
Yeah, and they also mentioned that like you said, like first in the facility, first one out or last one out, and he just, I feel like that to me, like as a player, I feel like you saw that from your quarterback, seeing how seriously they take this and how much time goes into it. That would make me feel a little bit better about, hey, you know what, we got this. And Sonny said, or I think it was Sonny, or it might have been Jared Wiley. He said, like, he texted all the wide receivers and the running back saying, hey, I'm going to be here at 6 a.m. Let's work on, so I can really just appreciate how much Josh Hoover is really taking this moment and seriously. And we could potentially, when Chandler is healthy, because imagine within a few weeks he might be good to go. Potentially, I don't know.
It'll be said 4 to 6 weeks, so
it'll be. If he is, it might be the last couple weeks of the season, and at that point,
he's got to win his job back at that point.
Yeah, if Josh Hoover keeps this up, there's really not a possibility. I don't see a possibility where Chandler comes back, but I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not concerned about 4 to 6 weeks down the line right now. I think Hoover's going to take this for the rest of the season. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that would just be, I don't know the word, but I think it would just be messed up to Hoover.
Yeah.
And I think we can't get too far ahead of ourselves. We need to take this week by week.
Yeah.
We can't be looking down the line.
And Sonny was like, that's where I was confused, because Sonny was saying week to week, and then I hear someone else, and then they're saying 4 to 6. So
Sonny eventually said 4 to 6, but
yeah.
I mean, if I'm a TCU fan, I'm not counting on him coming back. I'm saying, hey, Hoover's our guy, and we just need to focus on that for now.
I mean, the ball's rolling now at this point.
Yeah.
And whether it continues to roll forward, or somehow it gets pushed right back up the hill, and we start going the wrong direction, you kind of got to ride with it at this point.
Yeah.
Because like y'all said, we're too late in the season, and the diagnosis, the prognosis for how long it's going to be is kind of more way up in the air. And this is kind of a thing. Injuries like this to Chandler is something that has been reoccurring throughout his career. I mean, so it'll be interesting to see, but it's cool to see these types of performances. This is a very similar feeling I think a lot of TCU fans had after Chandler Morris had that awesome game against Baylor, but it's different in the fact of that was coming the game after Gary Patterson's last game as the head coach at TCU, interim staff at that point, and it's the end of the season. The season is kind of lost, right? You're giving up on it, throwing it away.
Yep.
You're still in the middle of this. Like, the season is very much still intact. While a Big 12 championship is no longer probably the goal, you could still get to a pretty good bowl game with some pretty good wins down the line.
Yep.
And also, given the Big 12 standings right now, I mean, it is chaos.
It's a mishmash.
Should we try and Zion? We had the exercise of, I guess we all tried to do power rankings this morning, and it was a very hard exercise.
Yes, it is impossible, because Oklahoma and Texas are the two best teams. That's obvious. But then after that, good luck. I just, it's a dogfight for sure, because looking at it right now, Oklahoma's the only team that's undefeated in Big 12 and just in general. And then Iowa State is technically in second as far as the Big 12 record goes.
Yeah.
And then it's just a clump of 1-2, 2-1, 0-3.
Yeah. I mean, in those spaces, I'd say around like 5 through 11, 5 through 10 it can be anything. It
Yeah.
really could. And also, it's not only just going to be anything in the power rankings, but some of those teams can show up or just come out flat and look horrific on any given Saturday.
Yeah. We actually put like TCU kind of in the middle of the pack, and I think that's fair to say because they're not a top team right now in the Big 12. They could be.
Yeah.
You never know, but they're certainly not towards the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. One quick question. I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this because I've been thinking about the defense a little bit. What are your thoughts on the linebacker core? I know TCU lost Johnny Hodges. We still really don't know what that timetable is, if he's going to return, if he's not, but for the foreseeable future, it seems like Shadrack Banks is going to have to step in there, and he has. I'm just curious to hear what you guys have to think about TCU and having that depth at that linebacker role and how you guys feel about it.
It's quite important given the defense they run, obviously, right? They're putting 5 of them out there at any given time sometimes. I think I'm very confident. And you know what? Shad Banks has always been my guy. I'm always a big Shad Banks guy because it seems like he's always like, I'm not going to say second fiddle, but he's never like that guy when you think of TCU linebackers that got Jamoy Hodge, Johnny Hodges, all the Hodges, whatever.
Yeah,
and then
lots of Hodge.
And then every single time, someone gets hurt, and then because inevitably injuries happen, it's sport, and here comes Shad Banks, the guy who made his name known. Once again, we're throwing it back to the Baylor TCU game in 21. It seems like ever since that moment, he just occasionally just has like, oh, by the way, hey, Shad Banks is a monster.
Yeah.
And so I'm pretty confident. This was just a really good defensive game. It's hard not to be confident in any part of the defense, in my opinion, following this game. But yeah, I think I have a decent confidence, and I kind of always have had a decent confidence because, like you said, it's a very deep position group.
Yeah, and I think it's probably arguably the strongest group right now on the team. I mean, honestly, because Shad Banks really stepped in nicely, and Nnamdi Obiezor moving from safety to linebacker has been a pretty good transition for him. So, of course, we want to get Johnny Hodges. Hopefully he comes back at some point this season, but I've been very pleased with the way the linebackers have played, and like you said, Seth, they're very critical in Joe Gillespie's defense. So that will wrap things up here for our TCU talk. Well, at least for BYU. When we come back, we're going to be previewing TCU Kansas State and talk about the bowl game and if there's a possibility that TCU can get that. You're listening to Riff Ram Review right here on 88.7 The Choice.